What's good in the hood, baby? My name's Tafari, aka the Cause of Death, and today I want to talk about the bioethics of fetal tissue research. Right? I just watched the C-SPAN coverage. It was like the House of Energy and Commerce. They got together to discuss this really debated topic, dude. And honestly, it's really an argument about abortion and people that are still upset that it's legal to get an abortion, and it's just funny when you see, I mean, it's usually the oldest people in the room that are like, you know what, this is not right, that baby is precious, and I understand both ways. I watched about 2 hours of the House of Commerce's talk about this. Not Commerce, House of Energy, and maybe it is the House of Energy and Commerce Committee. But anyway, and honestly, I do feel like some of them were not very qualified to be speaking on this. And at first, it seems like a no-brainer. Like, yeah, we should be using, the argument is maybe we shouldn't be using the aborted fetuses for tissue in science, which, I mean, I'm all for science. I'm the biggest science advocator ever. So for me, I'm like, yeah, we should use it. But I do feel like maybe some of the issues that they were pointing out, they were kind of weak, to me, honestly. But maybe to some people that are more emotional, they don't seem as weak. Like, one of the issues that they brought up in court was that the conversation between the tissue provider and the doctor, the scientist, it seemed a little, it wasn't personal. They talked about the tissue as tissue and head, and I don't know what the fuck they wanted. Like, what you want them to call him? Like, this is Carl. Like, we're talking about Carl, and yo, can I get a piece of Carl's heart, or whatever. Like, I feel like you have to be objective there, and so I feel like that argument's ridiculous. The one argument that was kind of going somewhere, but it still is retarded, is that when, let's say you have a daughter, she's 16, she gets pregnant, but she doesn't want this baby, so they abort the baby, right? And for one, they were talking about parents' consent, which, I mean, what's 16? I mean, I guess this is happening all the time, dude. I mean, maybe I'm just sheltered life, but what kind of 16-year-old is going into the doctor pregnant and getting an abortion, and the parents just nowhere? You know what I mean? Like, doctors can't even operate on you if you're 16 without no parent or some shit. So the parent must be there in the consent. So I feel like that's just a retarded argument. But okay, maybe that's a real thing. But what else were they did? Like, it, for me, honestly, I feel like, yeah, if a mother aborts the baby, the tissue, if she decides, the tissue should be donated, and there should be just nothing to that. Like, and then once it's donated, that's it. Like, you can call it whatever names you want. Like, I mean, I get, like, still have respect, but I feel like calling it tissue is calling it what it is. Like, I don't feel like you should have any emotional attachment to it, if you're a scientist. So I feel like like, a lot of the people in the committee, like, I mean, I feel like there was, like, maybe a couple Democrats that were really, like, like, okay with it, but everybody else was coming at the scientists, and it really was like a Blair witch hunt for these scientists. Like, you're doing something, cannibalistic. They talked about they didn't want the body parts to be what is that called? Like, pretty much monetized. Like, for instance, I guess the tissue provider is getting like $35 per tissue or whatever, and they were saying that they would want that to be in, they would want the woman who's getting the abortion to know that the guy is getting paid per tissue or whatever, which I feel like that's completely unreasonable. You know what I mean? Like, of course he's getting paid something. He's doing work, of course he's getting paid. I just feel like, dude, it's honestly, this is what's the most infuriating thing I've ever seen, actually, because it just reminded me and brought to the spotlight how stupid people are and how empowered they are. Like, I didn't get to see the whole sit down, but who knows how it turned out? It could have turned out that now we can't do research on fetal tissue, just like how the government shut down our facility that was going to discover the Higgs boson, and then the Higgs boson ended up getting discovered in like Russia or some shit like that, so once again we're shooting ourselves in the foot, breaking down our, like, we're losing on the science front, like, whereas like that was, I don't know, man, I feel like, man, when I see the things going on in the news and shit, it like yeah, like, I know that there's always going to be rapes and killings and shit like that, but the fact that stupid people are in power and they're not even objectively looking at the facts, like, they weren't, the whole conversation was not an objective conversation. It was a conversation about emotion and about whether tissue should be called Carl or just called tissue, and pretty much it was a way to fight abortion on the second front. You lost, the people that don't like abortion, they lost in the first battle. It's legal now. It's legal. So they lost that fight. So they're like, you know what? No, we're not losing. We're gonna fight the science that wants to use that abortion for scientific purposes. It's not like, and all right, so they had some good rebuttals. Like they brought up one time, I guess they said something about taste tests and cosmetics, right? Which they were like, I gotta know, so somehow that came up, taste tests and cosmetics, because that would be scientific purposes still, right? And so when you first hear that, you're like, taste test a baby? That sounds gross. That sounds really illegal or something, right? But now we're not talking about babies anymore. We're talking about tissue and proteins and the things that are in all food, right? And I'm not saying we should eat them, but the scientific purpose could be that, and this was what was stated in the case for the defense, was that there could be medicine that's made that you would have to taste, like, and that could cure, and if the loss of taste can have devastating repercussions. So if there's a way to study that effect, boom, like, and so she, the lady that was on for the defense in the first half, because I never watched the second half, I guess they're getting a whole nother panel, and that was really discouraging to me. Like this panel got most of the information. They got an hour or 2 hours worth of information. So now you're gonna change the panel out, and then we could lose on some, like, this is a fight I feel like shouldn't even have been fought, but I feel like maybe the ethics in acquiring, nah, dude, I think the ethics are fine. The main thing that's coming about is this fake, this Planned Parenthood fake video that made it seem like they were really like selling bodies and doing all this other stuff, because people that were upset with abortion felt like they needed to, take a stand and create this falsified video, and are now like being indicted for fraud, pretty much, right? And so that's how this argument even came about. The people that really didn't like abortion created a fake video and tried to really destroy the fetal tissue industry, right? And I understand, dude, it sounds like such a fucked up thing. Fetal tissue, that's so precious. But stop crying. Like, why does it hurt you so much? Like, if the parent doesn't come forward, it would have to be the parent of that child to come forward. Like, and that's another thing that they stated. No one is morally, no one can morally say what your baby, where your baby parts, your baby's parts should go, except for the mother. The mother can say whether it should be donated or whether it should be, discarded or buried or whatever. But yeah, very infuriating, yo. I'm gonna have to become like some type of House of Representative, because I just saw stupidity. Like there was a couple people that had sense, but most of them were just I don't even know. But yo, my name's Tafari, and I'm out.